Good afternoon.
Afternoon. I have my wingman Kayvon here if I stumble and fall, so hopefully I won't let anyone down here.
You've never stumbled that I know of, Dave.
Public speaking, you know, so fun for me. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. Hopefully your day is going well.
It's busy, that's for sure.
That is for sure.
Hi there, Ms. Cohen. Long time no see.
Hello. So we've got a lot of smiling faces here, and I assume we can start. And hello, everyone. My name's Dave Neumeyer. I'd like to introduce myself and FATE for those that don't know me or our program. So I have a few house rules I want to share with everyone so that we can move quickly and we can answer all your questions. First of all, I'll explain who I am.
Dave, if you wouldn't mind holding 1 second, I'm so sorry. I had the order incorrect in my listing for some weird reason. I just need to be sure that we have school board members. If I could just quickly take
Oh, no problem. We can wait.
No, I apologize for that. I was waiting for Ms. Cohen when I realized this is not FPAC that's on right now.
We don't want to miss anyone. No problem.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Ms. Cohen, I see you. Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Ms. Dana Koufax. Mr. Frisch.
Hello.
Ms. Keys Gamara.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. McLaughlin. Ms. Marin.
Hello.
Hello.
Ms. Omesh.
Here.
Earlier. Ms. Pekarsky.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. Tolan.
I'm here. Thank you.
Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
I'm here.
Still looking like a little bit of an alien there for some weird reason.
I don't know what's going on with my computer. I promise I'm here on Earth.
Ms. Corbett-Sanders and Ms. McLaughlin will be joining us shortly. Thank you so much, Dave. I will not take any more of your time. I know this hour is precious and we have lots to cover. So I will turn it over to you. And after your presentation, I will be happy to help to present the board members who have questions and comments. Thank you.
Fantastic. So again, for those that didn't hear, my name's Dave Neumeyer, and I'd like to, introduce FATE. I have a few house rules that I'd like to share so that this can move efficiently. So first of all, I'll explain who I am, why I joined FATE, and what FATE is, and that will take up the first portion of the presentation. Then I'll present FATE's 2020-2021 annual report, and then I will present the incoming president, which I'm really excited about, and we will field questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions, or we'll get back to you if for some reason we don't have those answers. So first of all, I'm honored and humbled to be here and to be a part of this program, representing FATE, serving as its current outgoing president. The last 2 years have gone by so fast you can't even imagine, and there's so much to go over. And I'm going to be detailed because I'm passionate about this and I don't want to leave anything out. I'm going to try and be connected with you, but I'm going to do a little bit of reading because there's a lot of information to share. So we'll try and have that balance. But I'll try and remember to pause and smile and do all the things that make it easier to follow. I've been actively involved with FATE since 2012 as a guest, as a participating board member, and as a former chair of the Tiny Home program, which is not currently active, and now as president. I'm currently completing a 2-year term, which has been an incredible journey which has been filled with trials, tribulations, and many small triumphs. And I'm extremely proud to be part of this meaningful organization. As a native son of Fairfax, Virginia, I'm currently co-owner of Y-Home Integration. Y-Home is a member of CEDIA and has earned national awards and recognition for custom automation projects, aging in place, and interactive security. Some of the projects that I'm most proud of, just briefly, we have 2,000 clients, by the way, was a dementia independence project where we allowed a gentleman with early Alzheimer, late dementia, be able to stay at home safely with his daughter living next door, and with electronics and sensors and systems that we put in place to protect him and to allow proper monitoring before systems were as advanced as they are today. Another project that means a lot to me and my team is the Cerebral Palsy Forever Home. Two boys with cerebral palsy in wheelchairs. This home was built beyond ADA standards, and it was just great being a part of this, where everything was thought through so that this is a safe place for them to live, and we were part of that incredible project. Another smaller project that equally as meaningful was a paraplegic independence project where this gentleman was in a car accident, and we were able to put together an environment where he could easily move from one space to the other with automatic sliding doors, either through voice or touch. And that meant a lot to everyone on my team. Our company does a few things. We offer smart energy management, biophilic design, for those that aren't aware, that offer healthier homes and buildings. An active shareholder for a company I'm very proud of, Reverse Ionizer, that a friend of mine owns. He's kind of a serial entrepreneur. And we have donated our company Tesla X with Falcon Wings to generously assist over 40 worthy charity auctions. So we try and stay involved both with time, money, and other things that we can do in kind to help programs we believe in. I met my lovely wife, Elisa, my better half, at George Mason University. We reside in Vienna, Virginia. We had both attended George Mason University. That's where we met. And this November 21st, we'll be married for 34 years. So we live in Vienna, Virginia, as I said, with my mother-in-law, Pat Martone, along with several overloved pets. We have dogs and cats, and the pets are definitely overloved. And we recently lost my father-in-law, Ray Martone, who passed away this March. And that was very difficult. And my mother-in-law and father, they were married for 65 years, and they were able to celebrate that together. So that was a wonderful thing. My wife, Elisa, is an AVP with Navy Federal Credit Union, and she heads up their compensation department at their headquarters here in Vienna. We both attended Fairfax Public Schools, with Elisa attending Marshall, while I attended W.T. Woodson. We have two adult children, Mariah and David, who both reside and work in the area. David attended Gonzaga High School and graduated from Virginia Tech's Engineering School, while Mariah attended PVI and graduated from VCU's Art School. The reason why I went into some of these details is because this is where it gets interesting. Despite the many benefits of private schools, which both of our children had the great privilege to experience, I still feel very strongly about further supporting our public schools. I firmly think that bolstering our public schools is critical to both individual growth and opportunity, as well as to the long-term success of our great nation. As the core of this educational renaissance is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Applying part of these tools to real-world vocations is an excellent way to widen STEM learning to more students. And that's what we do. That's why I joined FATE. So what is FATE? So FATE began about 50 years ago. Fairfax County Public Schools had a forward-leaning vision to quote-unquote develop in-demand vocational skills, as well as entrepreneurial element for enrolled high school students. The year was 1970. By 1971, FAXVO was formed. Please don't ask me to recite the whole name. It's convoluted, and thank God they eventually amended it. So by 1991, they amended the name to its current name, the Foundation for Applied Technical Education, Inc., or FATE for short. Excuse me, 3 decades later, Fate is still thriving, thanks to the many great people involved, like Kayvon and our team, both on the board and FCPS, and all the students that have participated. Fate students are fortified with abstract learning in the classroom, while they later integrate into real-world applications as they actively construct homes, repair vehicles, and build their own businesses. These enriching STEM learning experiences today are often leading to greater scholastic and career opportunities in the future. So, Fate currently offers 3 primary CTE programs. These career and technical education programs include the 3 pillars, 3 stars if you will: residential construction, student auto sales, and entrepreneurship. Starting with residential construction, the amazing thing is that these participating students are building a home from start to finish. They're involved in multiple steps in constructing million-dollar homes, where in different ways, from the foundation, framing, plumbing, electrical, masonry, drywall, finishing, estimating, inspections, and more. I could go on. The only thing that Fate students can't be involved in at all is the roof construction for liability reasons. So that's really hard to fathom when you think about it. They develop critical thinking, collaboration, confidence while on site, applying their expanding technical skills at the Spring Village community in Springfield. So for anyone who hasn't been there yet, I strongly recommend and invite you to come out when you can. Here are some of the residential construction highlights. So since it's been around for a while, they have some really interesting highlights that they've achieved. A 6,300 square foot home built in McLean by students back in 1970 originally sold for $180,000. By 2005, that same home resold for over $2 million. That's one of those hard things to wrap your head around, but it's very impressive. By 2006, Spring Village students were already working with TGI flooring systems and panelized walls. In the construction world, that's pretty much impressive. That's advanced framing, and they were, keeping up with the curve. They're ahead of many builders at the time. Homes built up to Lot 9 were built for accessibility for all. This is another thing that's near and dear to my heart. The universal design standards included a no-step garage, extra wide hallways, a main level bathroom suite, and closets intentionally stacked for a future elevator. So this was designed so that you could live there forever. And ironically, a widow in her 90s made a generous offer for Lot 9 last year during the beginning of the pandemic, specifically due to the aging in place elements in this home. However, she ended up not being the eventual buyer because she did not want to wait for the elevator shaft and elevator to be completed and installed. Certainly, at her age, she had earned the right not to have to wait any longer to start her next chapter. So, Godspeed to her. She went her own way, and we found an eventual buyer, and it worked out. Student auto sales, another star of our program. Again, another pillar. A variety of vehicles are donated to student auto sales by the general community. Many of them have high mileage and are not candidates for resale, but provide valuable hands-on collision and repair training experiences with minimal risk. You can imagine the kids have a chance to repair something or replace the brakes, and it's their first time. And they don't have to worry about it because this car is not going to be sold. And they get that STEM experience, and it's phenomenal. Still other vehicles are transformed, that's not a word. Still other vehicles are transformed through professional repairs and finishes into refurbished vehicles that are resold to the general public. Students have broadened and sharpened their skills, building both a Cobra vehicle kit as well as a Model T kit and other unusual cars amongst the many clunkers that they fix. Here are some student auto sales highlights. So there are a lot of them over the years. Fate operates the first licensed used car dealership in Virginia that is student operated. This dealership has continued operations for over 20 years. This is a big deal, and it may be the first in the country. Fate has sold vehicles all around the country, as far as California, and even to Mexico and Honduras. Fate, per our website, tracks total car sales since 2004 of over $2.5 million. and quote unquote, of which $1,936,633 in proceeds were returned to the 13 schools offering automotive technology or automotive collision courses. The remaining SAS proceeds were used to assist the funding of FATE scholarships and the fees associated with the leadership. This is what this program is about. It's a circle. It goes back, it continues, and the experiences go on. The third star of this program and the third pillar is entrepreneurship. Students participate in all aspects of creating and running a small business, which is no easy task. I have one and I'm overwhelmed myself at times. Students develop and complete a business plan along with financial and marketing strategies for launching a new product or service to market. The interest for this program has grown tremendously, and it has offered some of our most excellent student scholars for the scholarship opportunities. Here are some of the entrepreneurship highlights. Again, per FATE's website. Each year, other than last year, field trips to New York City's wholesale district was conducted, where the students went and they participated to purchase items that they'd planned to purchase for market day before the holidays. This was always one of our most favorite days. We would have a culinary feast put together by the CTE culinary program in Chantilly. And before lunch was served, we got the chance to go through all the markets, and those of us that were trying to be creative in Santa would fill our little bags full of well thought out things that they were trying to sell, and they did their great job, and people were happy to get them. And more importantly, they learned how to run a business, and they paid back their seed money with profits and the ability to make decisions what was done with the excess profits, whether it was t-shirts or other pride things that made them proud of their achievements. In 2013, the Purple Express launched at the Chantilly High School Academy and is a school store run by students for students. It's doing well today. In 2015 came the Spirit Box expansion. There's also another category that's exciting that FATE's involved in. It's the program grants category. Any CTE program teacher can apply for funding from FATE. And so we're always open to hearing great ideas, and we have not had a situation where they've come for funding where they have not paid back the seed money and it hasn't been a total success. So we're very honored and proud to be a part of that. In 2013 and 14, Falls Church Academy had a fire EMS ambulance grant, and that was a great success and has been. Also in 2013-14, Chantilly Academy launched the Entrepreneurship Purple Express school store that we just talked about. In 2015-16, the Army Junior ROTC program had a CPR and first aid program. Again, another success. And in 2015-16, South Lakes put out their Cyber Patrol after school cybersecurity program, which a lot of students signed up for and enjoyed and benefited from. And that's what it's all about, to get those experiences, to be more attractive for opportunities and employers. And that's what's going on. The other thing at the heart of all this is scholarships. We're putting money into programs. We're putting money into keeping these running, into instructors. We're also putting money into scholarships. And the kids are helping to generate that money. This is the heart of the program, and it continues to evolve. Historically, academic scholarship awards range from $1,000 to $5,000 each. Each year it's a little different, depending on a lot of different factors and variables. Tool scholarships awards are between $500 and $1,000. And again, in some of these scenarios, if you're in construction or student auto sales, the tool scholarship may be a preferred option for if you're going right into your career. So I ask you once again, what is FATE? It's all this and so much more. FATE is giving back to the students. FATE is a dedicated consortium of business professionals that donate their time and expertise as custom builders, architects, engineers, financial lenders, their accountants, insurance providers, attorneys, and more. I'm humbled every time I meet with them. FATE is a group of business partners that provide valuable business services such as realty, accounting, engineering, legal, insurance, financial, and other services needed for these programs. FATE is a team of FCPS liaison, faculty, staff, and instructors who provide the heavy lifting of this program year-round with their dedicated efforts and their ongoing commitment to excellence. Love them all, appreciate them all. FATE is each student participating, building homes, repairing cars, and creating businesses. They are paving their future. FATE is the sense of pride the boys and girls feel when they restore a car, when they sell out their products on market day, or walk the open house with their peers and parents in $1 million home that they helped build. FATE is hope, collaboration, learning, innovation, perseverance, applied technical skills, and achievement. FATE is the tears of joy gleaming in the eyes of parents, knowing that their son or daughter is the first in their family to attend college, and their child's FATE scholarship made it that much easier. This is FATE. So now, returning to FATE's annual report highlights. And I've got news for you folks. We are still here and we are bearing some good news. This was kind of scary when we entered this last year. None of us knew where we would be right now. So a year ago, we were challenged with the disruption, the risks, and uncertainty that the pandemic brought. Today, we are nearing the emergence from this uncertainty and a likely new normal this next fall. We will be talking less about virtual learning and hybrid learning, and fortunately, students will be able to experience in-classroom learning with their friends. This is welcome news. And let's hope it continues. FATE has money in the bank, 2 homes moving forward right now to sell, a 3rd home ready to start soon. We've got the plans. We got them today. We have 3 programs still intact. This was our goal. We were a bridge. When this went down, Kevin and I talked, and our goal was to make sure that we brought this back intact on the other end. And we have, and they're completely ready to welcome back more participating students. And from what we know, there are more students interested in this program than there was before this program went into its hybrid state. So woohoo, I am excited. This is really, really good news. So now we're going into the final steps of some of these annual report highlights. And one of them is, FATE President Dave Newmeyer, me, and Vice President, currently, temporarily, Kayvon Jabori, have completed our 2-year commitments. Our tour of duty is coming to an end. I'm now flip-flopping to Vice President to support our incoming President, Kayvon Jabori, and I'm so proud of him. He is going to do a phenomenal job. He has been at every meeting. He has asked all the right questions. He always follows up, and he cares so much about this program. We are so lucky to have him. So I am honored to be on his team. So the final thing on this overview before I go into the other details is we have something important that I think Kayvon's up to the task for, which I think I can help him with, is the idea that there have been things that we haven't been able to focus on that are really, really important, but didn't feel urgent when we were trying to overcome the turnover of leadership and the disruption from the pandemic of trying to figure out how to navigate all this. And that is phase 3, to keep this residential construction program going, which is bringing in most of the revenue for this amazing program. And my thought is that it needs to be phase 3 reimagined. We can't go back and simply hope that what we've tried in the past will work. We're going to have to look at new things. I don't have those answers, but I want to be a part of it. So moving on to residential construction. Site lot 9 sold in less than 2 weeks for $960,000. This was back in April 17th of 2020. It was a pretty amazing home. Again, it was universal design, as we discussed. It was the last one in the community that did that. It was there for people that either had extended families, physically limited, or aging in place. And easy entry, lowered switches and plugs, comfort height counters, lowered appliances, and extra wide doorways and stairs. And some of the features, those are some of the features that made this house special. So when it first started and it went on the market, we didn't know what to expect, what was going to happen, whether this was going to be a hot market, a cold market, whether people were going to sit tight and do nothing, whether they would buy this home. And we had a qualifying offer that was a little low. And Kayvon and the executive team and I and Greg Steiger, who's the realtor representing us, we had some great conversations, and we had conversations with the board. And the initial thought was that we wanted to do right by the program. And part of that is making sure that if we had an offer, that we didn't walk away from it simply just because it wasn't exactly what we wanted. But we tried to play it right because we wanted the best of both worlds. We wanted a transaction, a sale, to close this house and bring the revenue in, but we also wanted to get optimal return. And we did have 3 offers, but they were not at the same time. They were not overlapping. As it turned out, we ended up getting kind of the best of all 3 worlds. The second offer was the lady that was all excited about the elevator, but she didn't want to wait. And the final offer was kind of like, you know, the third bear. Basically, it worked out perfectly. They were ready to go, but willing to wait. When you sell a Fate home, there's extra paperwork. There's a little more protocols. So the person has to be explained that you have to wait a little bit and not, you know, get upset. It's going to take a few days longer because people get excited when they want to buy something of this level. And it worked out. We got everything we wanted. We sold it quickly. We got above our asking price. This was a real win. Lot 10 has a targeted market date of June 2021. It is now drywalled, painted with counters, cabinets, hardwood floors, carpeting. It's all installed. Its possible open house date is June 15th or 16th. We can't all converge on it at once, but I would love for all of you to be able to sign up and see this incredible effort that the kids and the instructors and the committee put in place. This is a knockout. This is an amazing effort. So hopefully that can be coordinated. Ron Meinert accepted the torch over a year ago as the new residential construction teacher and provides over 40 years of experience building homes and program continued forward. Again, we had a lot of turnover during this time period, but thankfully, Kevin and I were up to the task of adapting to this change, and we had so many people helping. There's so many people that deserve credit. And this particular home is outstanding. The cohesiveness, the attention to detail, it's very modern. I think they all knocked it out of the park. The whole committee, Therese, Ron, Kayvon, amazing. I'm so proud of what they did. I took pictures of it, showed my wife. She was like, wow. Lot 11 has a targeted market date for 2021, spring 2022. As I just said, we've got the plan, so all 3 homes are moving forward. Our program is alive. It is active, and it's moving forward. We have a record enrollment for our residential construction for next fall, so that is extremely exciting as well. Student auto sales. So the year before, in an abbreviated school year, sold 121 vehicles for a total of $142,805. Fate's goal was 200 vehicles for over 240,000. As of March 14th, our 13 school programs were on pace to surpass this lofty 240,000 goal. That was of last year. So things are still, you know, fluid, and currently the program has had to, take a step back due to COVID. We've had to change some of our procedures for taking vehicle donations. But the good news is that we've been continuing to be productive, and the program is alive. And SAS sold 94 vehicles, which translated into $103,172 in sales. So $76,704 returned to the schools in the program for tools and necessities. So we're still alive. We're still making things happen. And then finally, the entrepreneurship program. They had, before this last school year, they had $20,260 in seed money from Fate to support Market Day and did a great job. Obviously, this last December, that did not happen. For the 2020-2021 school year, entrepreneurship programs had to curtail their buying experiences due to COVID, but cannot wait to get back into buying and selling products. I'm really proud of the students. Over the years, my company's been lucky enough to, sponsor some interns that went on to college and won awards. And it was a great experience for us and for them, as many other companies have done as well. One of the many ways Fate supports the schools is to offer program improvement grants. We talked about this a little beforehand. One of those grants recently was the grant to Robinson Secondary School. This was for a $9,000, follow me now, Wazer water jet precision cutting machine, which is an easy thing to say. This tool is amazing and allows students to create a truss bridge to understand cantilevers, tensions, and compression. They will build ballistic catapults, an electromagnetic motor, trains, gear trains, gliders, and rockets. Wow, STEM learning can be fun. And this is the way it should be. They're learning these principles while having fun, and they want to enroll in these programs. And we need to keep these programs going. So we continued offering scholarships this year with a total of over 40 applicants received. Academic scholarships to post-secondary institutions in the amount of $2,500 each for construction, electrical, HVAC, and automotive students will be awarded. Scholarships for FCPS adult and community education trade and industrial courses will be awarded in the amount of $1,800. This is a new category for us. We're expanding. Even during this transition period, we were robust. We were passing, new things to make us better. We were making changes. So this is very exciting. Additionally, tool scholarships will be awarded in the amount of $1,000 for electrical, construction, and automotive students. Excuse me. So the scholarship committee is wrapping up the current scholarships for this year, so we're quite excited about that. The year before, Fate awarded over $19,000 in scholarships to construction, HVAC, automotive, electrical, criminal justice, and entrepreneurship students. So in the last 10 years, think about this for a second. In the last 10 years, Fate has awarded 91 scholarships totaling $248,700. This transformed lives. We know it. We have somebody on the board who went through the whole process and is an architect and is on the board. This is impressive. Residential construction concerns. So this is kind of how we're closing it out. I'm not trying to go on a down note while I jump into Kayvon. Sorry, Kayvon. But there's something big that keeps this whole thing going, and it's residential construction. That is fielding most of the monetary resources that are going back into the program. And the residential construction site at Spring Village in Springfield has 18 lots. So we are currently about to sell lot 10. So you can see there aren't many lots left. And we usually sell one per year. And that may sound like a long time period, but Kayvon can tell you that it takes a long time for planning and zoning and all the things that it takes to make this work. And our ask and our need and our search is for something that's not easy to find. So it is imperative that a location be located as soon as possible, since the processes of identifying, acquiring, surveying, permitting, and approving can take years. So we don't have 8 years. We have less than that to find something. So this is a big task and undertaking that I think Kayvon and I both have identified as top of the list. Not only is it important, it is now urgent. It's no longer, hey, we'll get through this and then we'll come back to that. It needs to be filled with a committee chair. It needs to be discussed in every meeting. Fate and FCPS have had meetings with Fairfax County executives and private industry personnel, hoping to identify future sites, and we need to resume these. We're open to all ideas. Universal design, single family, townhome, sustainable design, multi-family. We are open-minded because we want this program to work. Ideally, Fate would like a large plot of 10 acres or more so that the site house can house the construction office and the classroom. We have many resources on the Fate board of directors to proceed once the job is located. Our goal is to have a seamless transition from phase 2, where we are in Springfield, to phase 3. However, due to the pragmatic reality, this 10-acre parcel, which may or may not exist, that we've been seeking is unlikely to just show up and be granted to us for free. It is essential that this quest becomes phase 3 reimagined. We have to think of different ways to make this happen. I don't have the answers. I know Kayvon always asks the right questions. That gets us closer. But we have to look at all the possibilities, whether it's purchasing land, partnering, cooperatives, mixed use opportunities, rezoning, and more. I don't know. But this program is so valuable for so long to so many that we need to make this work. In almost closing, I have something that I always want to go back and thank the people that made this happen. And at the end of last year, after we had an incredible year, overcoming so many unknowns, we're going into things not knowing things, and everybody showed up, everybody worked hard, everybody did a great job. The participation was amazing. So I thank my Fate team, and I wanted to let you know how I thank them and why. Thanks to your relentless efforts, loyalty, and ingenuity, we have navigated our way through several unprecedented challenges. We have much to be proud of and grateful for as we award these scholarships to so many worthy student participants in our program. Let us remain focused to steer this worthy foundation past the obstacles still ahead of us and eventually back to Fate's full program for everyone's benefit at the right time. I think that right time is now. In the interim, we will keep Fate in good care, which I think we all have done across the board. Thank you, each and every one of you. You truly are outstanding. And they are. I mean, I get the credit or blame, and if it's blame, it's probably legitimate, but credit, it's everyone else. This team is amazing. We do welcome all of you to come and see what we do. We want you to come out sometime. And I leave you with Fate's motto, building the future, one student at a time. What a great motto. And so please, before we turn this over to questions, please let me reintroduce our incoming Fate president, Kayvon Jabori. Please share a little bit about yourself and join Fate.
Thank you very much, Dave. Excellent presentation. Good evening, everyone. I am Kayvon Jabori, and I'm honored to have been selected as Fate president for the coming year. I was made aware of Fate and its mission in 2006 by one of its past presidents, Mr. Reed Dudley. I found Fate's mission in promoting vocational education quite fascinating and rewarding. As such, once the opportunity was presented to me to join Fate's board, I seized the moment eagerly. Filling Dave's shoes, as it was very evident with his presentation, as president will be a tall order. He has worked tirelessly for the past 2 years, and he has accomplished a lot. I am hopeful to be able to mimic his work to the best of my ability and look forward to serving Fate and the school board. As far as my background, I am a civil engineer, and I am the owner of a local civil engineering consulting firm. I was very heavily involved with infrastructure design of phase 2. And as Dave mentioned, we are hopeful to, with the help of the other board members, Fate board members, to find a way to start and think more closely in coming up with avenues to start phase 3. At this point, that's all I have got to say.
Thank you, Kayvon.
Sure.
Well, we're ready to
Open
field
for questions.
questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know that my colleagues will have some questions and comments to share. And before we get to that, I do want to say, first of all, Dave, thank you so much for all of this work. I appreciated the exciting introduction that you provided, not just regarding fate, but also regarding your personal background and what brought you here. I appreciated hearing and learning about you. Kayvon, welcome. You do have big shoes to fill, but I am sure that Fate is in very, very capable hands. I do have some comments of my own to make, but as the person monitoring this piece, I will go last and I will go ahead and take comments or questions from my colleagues. So we will start with Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Did you have questions or comments? Oh, I'm so sorry. I got the
That's
wrong hand.
If you want me to make a comment, I will be happy to thank them
Go ahead.
all.
I misread my list there, but please go ahead.
This is my favorite presentation of the year, and I really missed being able to go to the Fate open house this year, as well as the awards ceremony. The work that Fate has done since the 70s is just amazing. One of the things that I'm going to encourage, and I will be happy to work with you, we had prior to COVID had started conversations about how maybe Fate can work with our affordable housing initiatives in Fairfax County. And I would urge that we revisit those conversations between the county and the schools. And we know that the SCIP is very committed to ensuring that we are addressing career and technical education as part of our successful children and youth policy team. And so I think now is the right time to reimagine Fate, and I'm glad you brought that up. And will urge my colleagues to make sure that we have conversations with our colleagues on the Board of Supervisors about how we might be able to leverage workforce development and the area of affordable housing, as well as the area of environmental, because we also have a joint initiative with the Joint Environmental Task also talks about the importance of those careers of the future. And so I just thank you all. It's always.
Thank you very much, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. I also apologize for miscalling the names. I also have to apologize. My internet seems to be off, so I may have to turn off my camera in order to be heard because I notice it's scrambling a little bit. We will now go to our next speaker, Ms. Tolan, followed by Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. The work that you're doing is so valuable to our students. I have one question. I know that our CTE program overall is about to undergo a complete review. And so this may be a question for Ms. Glazer. I'm wondering, how the different phases of FATE will fit into that review process, and how, looking for phase 3 and looking for, a focus for that phase 3 and what kind of property we're looking for, et cetera, might fit into that review. And if it doesn't, how we're looking at those things.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Ms. Tolan. And the external review is a full program review of all of our career pathways. So as you've heard from the FATE presentation this evening, primarily FATE focuses on our trade and industrial pathways, of which we have several. And we will continue to try to expand those opportunities with the help of FATE, as well as the board. The external review will not have as much focus on securing additional land for the next phase of the project. That's a separate process, and we certainly have appreciated the engagement from many of you in the collaboration. it is something that we look forward to re-engaging in more fully as we enter the summer and next year.
And just to comment really, I appreciate Ms. Corbett-Sanders bringing up our joint environmental task force. And as you know, we're working with, Rachel Dahmer and Matt Bechtel in your organization. So we definitely want to collaborate because I think that there may be some, great opportunities here for, some of the goals that we have, in our JET work as well. So thank you. Thank you for all these incredible efforts. I really hope I can get out to see the house and to see how, excited the students are about their incredible accomplishments through this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tolan. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser? You have no sound?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm having all sorts of issues today, so I am sorry. First, Dave, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for this great work, and welcome on board. I'm really excited about this work around career and technical ed and providing opportunities for our students. But I was wondering, and this may be something for Dr. Boyd or Ms. Glazier, you talk a lot about sort of partnerships with our career and technical ed students and scholarships. I'm wondering if there's room for scholarships or grants for some of our special education programming that's also focused on workforce development. And I'm thinking specifically of our Davis Center, which has a catering center as well, Pulley, STEP, Employment for Education for Employment, Education for Employment Office. I just went to Freedom Hill Elementary School and was talking to the IDS teacher about a program she had been running where she was selling, the students were selling sort of mailgrams for teachers, and they were sorting them and delivering them and things like that, which are really great skills for her students. And so often our special education students, career workforce development is very important, but they may or may not be able to access our CTE programs. So I think there may be space to sort of, use your great work, not just for our CTE students, but also for our special education students in some of these programming. So I was just wondering if there is some, any sort of work that you do, or Jen or Dr. Boyd, about some overlap there. And I've got one other comment too.
So
Bringing that question, and Dr. Boyd, go ahead if you were starting to speak, although.
I welcome anybody, so I'm not particular.
I thought I heard someone starting to speak. I apologize about.
Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. And certainly we welcome the opportunity to partner and continue to think about how we can connect differently or in greater ways with our programs and centers to include for our students with disabilities. Our scholarship programming opportunities do cover a wide range of potential post-secondary opportunities. And I know that there's more that we could do to dive in, like you were saying, with Davis and Pulley pathway programs to see how we could partner and involve them. The teacher grants are available to teachers across the division as one example. And I think we could do some more targeted outreach to teachers in those programs to get some more engagement. And we can also look for new ways to innovate. So thanks for continuing to remind us and reiterate the importance of connecting with students in those programs.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you to look even beyond Davis and Pulley, because as we all know, our students with standard diplomas cannot access the programs at Davis or Pulley or STEP. And so they often take the Education for Employment class, or they may take those at their high schools, but also need similar opportunities, as well as, giving opportunities for our Cat B kids or Cat A kids or IDS kids to develop some of these entrepreneurship programs. A lot of them do run stores. A lot of them do selling things through carts. I think this is really great hands-on experience that. So I agree, Ms. Glazier, sort of outreach to the teachers to know that this does exist, and, a great programs for their students as well would be super helpful. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there in terms of equity, right? We want to make sure we provide equitable opportunities for entrepreneurship for all of our students. I also wanted to ask really quickly, I love that you're looking for ideas for your next housing project. I was really excited when I heard about the universal design for the housing project. Have you considered, just an idea for you, there's a project in Rockville, Maryland called Main Street. And it is multi-use housing that is a combination of inclusive housing for adults with disabilities, affordable housing, and sort of market price housing units. And the idea behind that is that often when we have group housing for adults with disabilities, it is segregated, it's not inclusive. And so this Main Street is really all about inclusive housing, which includes affordable housing as well. So just as an idea to throw out at you, but it's in Rockville, Maryland. So if you just Google Main Street, Maryland inclusive housing, it'll pop up. So I just wanted to sort of put that, and I just love the STEM focus as well in providing some of these great tools because they're used in our college programs. So again, if you think about that. My time is up. That's all I wanted to say. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
And I'd welcome any comments if you all want to comment on any of that.
I love your ideas and the things you care about. I care about as well, involved in a number of different areas with people with varying abilities. And I think it's underserved. And I think also that we don't have to do anything special to accommodate this concept. All you have to do is submit a grant request and we'll discuss it. So you put it together, you come up with the brilliant idea and we'll discuss it. We'll look at it and, potentially you could be getting a grant and start this new program, which will enable everything that you want, including scholarships. So it's exciting. We want to expand. Just because there's 3 components now doesn't mean that 10 years from now that there can't be 5 components. And some of those components are different.
Thank you. I look forward to more conversations about these things. I'm excited about this. So thank you.
Thank you. Miss Marin, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Newmeyer, Mr. Jabouri. This is really fun to listen to. I really appreciate your energy. I too, when you started talking about the types of housing that was being built, I thought that was going, that's a great idea to keep doing. So I'm glad Ms. Sizemore-Heiser mentioned that. I think that, I'm wondering if there's a connection here, or it just seems like there's a lot of places where there could be synergies. And I'm wondering what the board or, your foundation, FCPS Foundation, our community outreach, Mr. Garrett, there's a lot of stuff here. We have a lot of ideas, and I'm just wondering if we could set up more specific times or a timeline of how to touch base and make these things connect. I was thinking even about ACE, our adult education program. And so I think there's tons of ideas. We're only limited by time and people, right? So, but perhaps if we put our heads together more strategically, we can figure out how to really get this really great experience to more students. And I think, the more that as a school division, we can advocate that, 4-year college is a great path for some students, but not for all students. That these are, these services are in demand, and they are excellent careers and offer excellent ways of life. So I think the more we can promote that and show how exciting it is and fulfilling and valuable, then it will really also help us to expand this. So thank you very much, and I hope to make it out to that open house. I'd love if you could send those details, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marin. Seeing that there are no other hands, I will quickly take my turn and also ask a couple of questions, with my first one being, as exciting as all of this that you've designed, that you have outlined for us is, I wonder, how can we partner with you in your urgency to locate the next site for as you shared, the additional homes will go quickly. How can we be in support of that effort?
I think I will attempt to answer, and then I'll let Kayvon have a chance to talk as well. He has been listening mostly. I think it is the confluence of all these incredible ideas and the connection of all these people that are involved in other entities and organizations. At the end of the day, it might not come directly through Fairfax County Public Schools because you don't own land that you control anymore that you can give us, but you may have connections that are valuable to us, and people that want to then listen to our story and want to know what we're doing. They're like, we want to be a part of this. We want to help. This is what we can do. And that's what we're hoping we stumble into. And you never know how you're going to get there. But during this last year, we all became isolated. Now we're going through this process where we're starting to reemerge, and so part of that is reemerging to reconnect with people that we haven't seen in a while, having in-person meetings again, and re-exploring this to different levels to see if the answer is something that's in front of us, within the next year or so. It could be. It's just maybe we haven't looked in the right place or looked far enough.
Thank you very much for that. Similarly to my colleague, I would love the opportunity to visit, I think you said lot 10, which will have an open house. So I would love to have that information. If you could also share that with our clerk so we could share it amongst the board. You shared so many very meaningful things. These projects mean so much to the community, not just to those who are building them, but to those who ultimately end up utilizing them. The scholarship fund, almost $250,000 over the last 10 years. This is very exciting work. So I just list these things to just say thank you for your leadership on this board. And thank you to all of the other board of directors and all of the community members who give up themselves and their time in order to bolster our public schools, as you shared, even when your own children did not participate in those services. So thank you for all of this work and for taking the time to educate us this evening. I found what you shared with us to be very enlightening, and I'm looking forward to that continued partnership. So thank you again, Dave. Thank you again, Kayvon. We will see you all very soon.
Take care. Goodbye.
At this point, we have a few minutes until our next committee report, and I will turn it over to Ms. Cohen as she will be leading that section.
I figure in the rare moment that we're actually a few minutes early, Miss Marin has her hand raised. Yes, ma'am.
No, that was a holdover. Sorry.
No worries. I just want to make sure no one was objecting to me starting 4 minutes early. So it's my great pleasure to be able to, of course, thank the folks from FATE. I will say as a couple of years getting to serve on CTAC, our fates were, no pun intended, quite intertwined. And I'm so just impressed by the work that you all have done. So turning from one type of facilities to slightly different type of facilities, I'm really grateful to get to have spent the last year and a half of my service time with the awesome folks at FPAC, and will gladly turn it over to Dan Amanoff, who I would argue is the best chair of any committee ever, and anyone can fight me on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just want to let everyone know we're also joined by our vice chairman, Angela Smalls, and Katie Herman is here tonight as well. So we do have a presentation that we'll just kind of work through. Hopefully everyone had a chance to peek at the report, and we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. Going to the next slide, we'll just briefly kind of go over the agenda here, which is that we'll just kind of review our membership. I'll give you some of the report organization, review our annual charge, highlight some recommendations that are included in the report, and some conclusions. But before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't thank, of course, all the members of FPAC for everything they did this year, as well as the leadership team, Angela and Katie, for helping keep everything running. They make me look good, so can't do it without them either. But especially we'd like to thank our staff coordinators, Jessica Gillis, Sarah Wade, and Kathy Vassapoli, again, for keeping us on track and keeping everything moving. As well as this year, we had a lot of interaction with Justin Moss and the facilities maintenance group. And we thank him and his team for all the information they were able to share with us that hopefully you'll see in the report, which is very interesting. And also all the various guests that attended our meetings this year, Dr. Williams, Noel Klemenko, amongst others. And of course, all the support we get from school board member Cohen. So we really appreciate all your help and support with that. Thank you. So turning to the next slide, this is just kind of a quick overview of our FPAC members. You can see most of them are there's only a couple holdovers from kind of way back when. Most of them are within the last 3 to 5 years. So we're grateful to have their service. And we'll go to the organization of the report, which as you know, on the next slide includes the executive summary. We did make 29 recommendations this year, and each part of our annual report lists the significant findings that we found in connection with the parts of the charge, the specific recommendations we made, and then an appendix with detailed reports that you're welcome to review at your leisure. And of course, just a recap of all the activities we did this past school year. The next slide shows our charge for this year, which is to continue to work with staff and build on work in the following areas. I'll just highlight a couple of them here: maintenance and asset management, facility resiliency to include accessibility, sustainability, and design justice, boundaries, policies, and processes. And this year we kind of put in a special section to kind of look at some of the issues around the pandemic and to accommodate social distancing and a safe environment in the schools. So we'll start off with each one individually. On the next slide, we have the long-range vision, which is kind of an ongoing section that we've had in the report for a few years now, which is really the one we kind of think out of the box and try and figure out what school will look like in 10 to 20 years. What are the new things that be used for delivering instruction? What kind of facilities do we need in connection with that? So a couple of the recommendations we made this year include develop plans to use virtual learning for co-educational needs, such as test prep or educational resources not available in all schools. This is something that kind of came out of the pandemic and the remote school lessons learned, where it may be feasible now to deliver French as opposed to not just at one elementary school, but perhaps at several, if we can coordinate schedules to work where we can have kids in a certain place where maybe they can take advantage of a remote learning situation within the school. More to follow on that. We're pushing for a formal process for soliciting community feedback on all land use and construction projects. FCPS does a great job at outreach and letting everyone know about what's coming and what's going on in connection with school renovations, new schools, etc. But we still don't seem to get to everybody. And we think that maybe having a formal process might be something that would work well in some of these communities where there are some different land use activities going on. We recommend that the school board look at the feasibility for supporting universal pre-K. We want to be sure we can do it if and when it happens. We're not sure we can accommodate all the kids within the schools right now. It may be a combination of putting kids in schools and commercial operations. But we think now is probably the time to really start focusing on that and seeing what might be feasible. And we also think that it would be a good thing to engage a futurist for long-term visioning, perhaps in the form of a summer stipend for university students or some other project related to a university type thing. So those are kind of our key long-range visions. And we'll move on to the major maintenance and asset management items. The FCPS, we recommend that FCPS perform an updated comprehensive facility assessment using industry standard criteria and benchmarks. There's a lot of detail about this within the body of the report, but and working with Justin's group this year, we learned a lot about what the condition of the facilities are, and we would just recommend that we get a comprehensive assessment done so we know what we have everywhere, pretty much. We also recommend that FCPS include the full breadth of operations, maintenance, and construction costs, and all funding sources in future CIPs. The CIPs are very good at determining the cost to build something and the cost to construct it, but it doesn't necessarily take into consideration once it's built, all the maintenance costs that are associated with having a new building. So there needs to be kind of a broad look at how we allow for increased square footage and how we maintain it and how we budget for it. And in future transparency of CIPs, we should include the full amount of what does it cost to build an addition at a certain school. We also recommend that FCPS identify and publicize the actual cost burden to FCPS associated with community use of the facilities. We all know that the schools are used far more by the general public than they are for education. The cost burden is borne primarily by FCPS. The fees that are charged in connection with use of these facilities do not support the needs of the wear and tear that are associated with them. So we think having this also be more visible and transparent could eventually start a dialogue with Board of Supervisors in connection with a shared funding situation. Moving on to the next item, facility resiliency. We recommend that FCPS develop a plan to achieve zero waste goals in new buildings and renovation design that align with the Joint Economic Task Force recommendations. This is a work in progress, and those of you that are involved in the JET process understand what this is, but this is certainly a worthy goal, and we feel that FCPS should embrace this. We also feel that FCPS should consider adopting the American Institute of Architects framework for design excellence. This is a document that's on our resource page. It's linked to in our actual report, but it really gives a kind of a overview of where things are in terms of design, and should be a framework for designs going forward in connection with any renovations, new schools, capacity enhancements, etc. And finally, we recommend that FCPS assess the ability to provide outdoor learning facilities at all schools. This, obviously has been a big thing in the pandemic, and there were a number of things that were tried and I think worked well, tents and just having the kids outside a lot more once they return to school. And we feel that that should be provided on a universal basis wherever it's feasible to do so. The next topic was boundary policies and processes. These are essentially the same recommendations we made last year because we didn't move the bar a whole lot this year. We're still awaiting the boundary consultant report, which we hope will help the school board come up with some criteria that will allow for boundary studies to take place in a more equitable manner. So we're just reiterating that the school established capacity is the primary benchmark for initiation of a boundary study, and that the school board adopt an open communications policy allowing for timely communication with the affected communities. Again, back to kind of a formal outreach type policy. And the last section we looked at this year was social distancing in a safe environment. And we weren't sure what we were going to be doing here, but it turned out to be kind of an interesting topic for us. A couple recommendations that came out of this group was to conduct a continuous third-party assessment of indoor air quality, which we think we're doing a pretty good job on that, but given some of the age and condition of some of our HVAC systems in some of these schools, we can probably do a little bit more with that. But nonetheless, we're very proud that FCPS has achieved the Well Health Safety Rating from the International Well Building Institute, which is something the division should be very proud of. We also recommend that FCPS assess current classroom fixtures to create additional space and plan new construction and renovations with fixtures that include inclusive colors and materials that allow flexible multi-purpose configurations. So what we found in a lot of classrooms that we have is, the cubbies and the sinks and the cabinets really reduce the amount of space that's available in a particular classroom. When we were trying to, work with a 6-foot social distancing requirement, it was significant space that we just couldn't do anything about. It got better, obviously, with 3 feet, but it's something going forward we may want to see if some of these things can be more flexible and maybe moved and reconfigured. And we urge design and construction to take a look at other options with that, and of course include the inclusive colors and materials, which would be great for the kids. And also, of course, we develop a permanent transportation, health, and safety plan. Not just because of the pandemic, but just in general, going forward. We didn't have kids really in the schools over the winter season, but some of the things that we've learned from the pandemic might help with just seasonal flus and other illnesses that occur in a school type environment. And looking ahead to next year, we kind of threw together a proposed charge, which is to continue to develop a long-range vision for FCPS school facilities, do some additional work with regard to the major maintenance and the asset management recommendations. Also do some further work on facility resiliency to include accessibility, sustainability, and design justice. We want to move forward with some of the boundary policies and processes, and specifically identify any immediate needs at any schools in terms of capacity enhancements that might be needed sooner rather than later. And FPAC, per our charter, we should be doing a periodic self-evaluation of work in process, and we put that on the proposed charge for next year, because we have not done that in a while. And dovetailing on with some of the best practices that's coming out of the public engagement group, we want to be sure that we're still doing everything that is best practice. So with that, I will leave the remainder of time for questions for any of us.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Even my dog is weighing in. Mr. Frisch, I see your hand up first.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I want to ask about community use fees. My understanding is that we charge very little for community use when compared to other jurisdictions. And as a result, the wear and tear on our buildings is not necessarily covered by the fees we charge. And so that ends up having to come out of other resources. Has FPAC explored this issue? And just get your general thoughts on that, and what mechanisms might there be for increasing fees to be more comparable to what other jurisdictions charge?
Yeah, thank you. We have looked at it. We've identified it, obviously, as an issue. We've not tried to solve the problem so much, other than just to raise it. But if you look at what the schedule of charges are, for use of the building, there's one other issue in connection with facilities that's related to this, and that's, as I indicated, a lot of our HVAC systems and lighting systems and control systems within the school are kind of old. So, if you just have, a Cub Scouts group in the cafeteria, you pretty much, have the whole school open with HVAC, with lighting, with those type of things. So above and beyond the fee issue, there's some programmatic issues with regard to how the school is used in connection with some of these activities, because to have just a small group in, you might have to have the whole school going. So it's something that we certainly have an interest in. We think there's a political component to this as well, that level with the Board of Supervisors, but we certainly think it's, you know, not necessarily fair.
In addition to the programmatic use of the space where, one rental might keep an entire school open, there's probably a design element as well, right? So when we're doing renovations on buildings or new constructions, designing them in such a way that a school does not have to be entirely open and on when a portion of the school is being used for community use. Do you think that there's a mechanism there for FPEC to engage on this subject in the future?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's something we've looked at on occasions. And maybe I'll let Mr. Plattenberg jump in here in terms of the design function of it. But certainly, because there may be some of that going on that we're just not aware of. But certainly it's something that I think Mr. Plattenberg is aware of, and the design and construction folks are working hard to solve for.
And finally, before I finish up, I just want to thank you and FPEC for all of the hard work over the past year. And I'm grateful to see the committee's support for the recommendations from the Joint Environmental Task Force on net zero construction. And I know that my colleagues are looking forward to discussing that issue in further depth at our, I believe, June 22nd work session. And Elaine, Ms. Tolan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is June 22nd, where we will be discussing the JET recommendations in further detail. Finally, the recommendations coming together after more than 2 years of work. So I appreciate FPAC's support for those goals.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. I have Ms. Tolan next and then Ms. Corbett Sanders after that.
Yes, thank you. And yes, you're correct, Mr. Frisch. It's June 22nd. And thank you. I will second that support for net zero and also for the outdoor classrooms. That's been an important discussion that we've been having, particularly through COVID, and really appreciate that, and appreciate the continued conversation. I had a couple of questions. I was interested in you were talking about the AIA framework for design excellence. I know, we currently for our facilities use something called CHIPS, collaboration for high performing schools. And, I know that covers a number of areas like, indoor air quality, lighting, as well as, sustainability. Would you see using the AIA framework would be something that we would use in conjunction with something like CHIPS, or would you replace CHIPS? I would just wanted to learn more about it.
Yeah, sure. No, it's not a replacement for CHIPS. It's not like a lead or kind of a design thing. It's really more. It's kind of like a high level type thing. So I'll just read a couple of the topics that are included in it, which are design for integration, design for equitable communities, design for ecosystems, design for water, design for economy, design. So they're kind of pie in the sky type things, but it's a if you're sitting down and trying to design something, these are kind of the things you want to be sure you're solving for, because it's inclusive. It's it's more like a checklist, really, to just be sure that you're capturing all these different elements, which are just kind of logical type things that you would want to do when you're doing new construction.
Right. Okay. Thanks. That's very helpful. I think that kind of goes along with. I was really fascinated to see your suggestion of using a futurist. I know we've had discussions in instructional services, for example, on what would a school of the future, look like, even from an instructional viewpoint. How would you see, using the futurist? Would it be sort of in conjunction with, looking at this kind of a framework?
Yeah, I think it would be someone, with, that how they learn, just, take into consideration what we know now and project how, the kids that are being born today might learn, 5 to 15 years from now. So, I'm not, it's the kind of thing where I'm not sure what we would get back, but it'd be interesting to see what they come back with. So.
Interesting. And I guess, even collaboration with our board of supervisors and, other needs that we have in the county, multiple uses of buildings, all of that could come into that conversation. I did want to mention, Laura Jane and I are also on the CPDC group, and our next meeting, we will have a presentation from staff on the community use, looking at, different jurisdictions and what their prices are and how they run their community use programs. So we do have some work moving forward on that, stemming even from the joint planning commission school committee that we had. So we can look forward to that. Thank you so much for all your work, and thank you for letting me pop into your meetings now and again, and kind of keep up with what you're doing. I really, really appreciate it.
We appreciate it, Ellen. Thanks.
Elaine's become our ex officio liaison. Thank goodness. She's awesome. So next is Karen Corbett Sanders, and then Ms. McLaughlin.
Dan, thank you. It's always such a pleasure to hear from FPAC, and the amount of work that FPAC members put in is amazing. It's the only advisory committee at this point where we have multi-year commitments. So I really appreciate all you and your team do. I have a couple of questions. I was very glad to hear that you looked at the impact if we were to go with universal pre-K, because that is something that I believe that the state will end up at in the next few years. And the impact of universal pre-K will have an impact on the capacity in our buildings as well as boundaries, because I don't think that universal pre-K should automatically result in the reemergence of our trailer parks, which we've really striven or worked to get rid of. I would like, when you talk about the community use, to know if you've looked at comparison between the communities charged by the county for their buildings versus what we charge, because that would be interesting. The second piece of it is that I would like to understand a little bit more about the impact of our SAC programming on our building use, because that has a different fee structure, and it would be helpful to know whether or not we are actually recovering those costs, and is the opportunity cost of not having access to rooms having an impact as well. So that would be very helpful to better understand. And then there's a third piece. There are two additional pieces. One is we have an inequity in the county regarding bathroom facilities. We don't have bathroom facilities at all of our sports fields. And I'm wondering if FPAC looked at that, because it does have an impact on how people perceive our educational facilities, and whether or not there is true equity between one and another, and whether we should be doing something differently. And that actually leads me to my last question, which is the ed spec. And, it's always been a mysterious thing because we don't actually publish our ed spec. And so would it be helpful and more transparent if we were to publish that? So those are some of my questions. And once again, thanks for all you do. I'm so glad that you're making recommendations on outdoor learning spaces, on more environmental, sustainable buildings, and many other things.
Very good, thank you. I'll just answer a couple of quick things here for you. As far as the athletic facilities go, we have looked at that. In fact, actually, the last 2 years, we've recommended actually that we look at perhaps consolidating some of the athletic facilities to more of a regional or type basis, because we feel with land being at a premium, and if we need to expand the school, it may become necessary to look at alternative options in each school having a complete set of athletic facilities, which, as you know, is common, in a lot of places. So the bathroom kind of issue is kind of tied in with that as well. Yes, we are certainly looking at all the things you mentioned in terms of SAC and some other things in terms of the county co-use and who's charging what and is it equitable and those type of things. So Katie or Angela, did you want to jump in on any of these questions from the Sanders?
The ed spec and whether or not it should be more publicly available.
Yeah, the ed specs is something, and it evolves obviously with time, and it's something we've had discussions with staff about because we're not, like you say, we're not 100% sure what the current ed spec is for like a science lab, and how much space does it take, how many square feet is it, and the design and construction folks tell us, well, it evolves every time they're doing a new plan and a new school, which is great because it was stagnant for 10 or 15 years until about 5 years ago. But yes, it's something that I think would be good to at least have the process for an ed spec out there, if not the ed spec itself.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. So first of all, I just want to pick up on a few things that Ms. Corbett Sanders said. Dan, I don't know if you know that I served on Supervisor Harity's Sports Tourism Task Force, along with Supervisor Kathy Smith and about 30 other, stakeholders about sports tourism. Activities was on there. And I bring this up because the high school stadium bathrooms was something that we started to talk about in terms of how we attract sporting events and bring in extra revenue to the county from youth and adult tournaments and things like that. And so I know there had started to be some discussions with the county side, with Jeff Plattenberg, prior supervisors, my own Braddock District Supervisor before John Cook, and now James Walkinshaw. So we are definitely wanting to, I think, put a little more intentionality. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and then we had to put everything on hold. But I do want to spotlight that I think that there's a win-win for that type of investment. And then secondly, having served on the synthetic turf task force as well, a big focus is that we are a highly active county, which is wonderful, with youth leagues, adult leagues. And so part of our high school stadiums, what we found in that task force is about 50% of the the field usage is coming from the community. So I know we've talked about the fact we're going to have to be creative as we build more high schools and things, but I do think that the space we have, I will definitely want to keep championing that we can't lose any more green space. And then the other thing is about community use fees. I'm glad that Mr. Frisch brought that up. That too was something we talked about in the Sports Tourism Task Force, and just how we need to be competitive with the schools around the region. And so I really look forward to CPDC diving into that. And then the SAC classroom usage, that's been a perennial conversation on all 3 boards that I've been on. And I really do hope that that's something, as we emerge from the pandemic, that FPAC will maybe help us and the CPDC then put some real intentionality with it, because I think it goes beyond FCPS staff. We really need a little bit of the elected official to elected official muscle power to talk about how do we really collaborate on that. And then finally, before I run out of time, I really want to just make sure I give a special shout out to 10-year FPAC appointee, my Brad appointee, Charles Hookey. Charles is one of the originals and served for 10 of the last 11 years that FPAC has existed. He's known 36 of the 38 appointees. So that leaves you, Dan, as now the record holder for longest for being with all of us. And so to my colleagues, I have a full memo that Charlie took very careful time to prepare that when you have a moment, I hope you'll read about FPAC. It was really amazing. And I am going to miss Charlie immensely and look forward to another way to publicly acknowledge him. But in the interim, I wanted to take a moment this evening. So Ms. Cohen, thank you for your indulgences, but I did need that little extra time to give a shout out to the awesome service of Braddock District's appointee, Charles Hookey. So grateful. And Dan, thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, we're gonna miss Charlie for sure. We're gonna have a little send off with him at our June 8th meeting if you can make it there. So that'd be great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Charlie is definitely worth an extra 30 seconds, Mr. McLaughlin. If nobody else has anything, I just had a few things that I really wanted to highlight and brag a little bit on this committee, if you all will indulge me. One of the big things that I'm hoping you all will follow is that Dan Hogan has undertaken, who's at large, but I think is going to be stolen by Mr. Frisch for the Providence District, and has begun a project of really trying to document in our schools, what are some significant problem areas and what's driving some of those. So back to both Ms. McLaughlin and Mr. Frisch's comments, what does the role of the community use play in a lot of the mold and moisture and mildew issues that we're having in the overtaxation of our HVAC units? And what role does deferred maintenance play? As you all know, we're millions and millions, about $25 million a year in deferred maintenance costs. And so, what are the real time costs in what that looks like physically in a building? So I hope you'll follow on that. I will send out to the board anytime he gives an update, but he goes to a school and takes photos and has conversations with facility staff. And it's could be like its own FCPS like documentary on how we figure out what we need to do in some of our aging buildings. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And the other thing I wanted to say is, this year, I think in particular, the makeup of the committee has really come together in a lot of incredible ways. And you all have appointed just outstanding people who have a variety of expertise over any number of different areas. This year we're lucky enough to even have someone who works in healthcare who's brought a different lens, I think, than we've had. We even have a former school board member who from another state who is in and able to give her impressions as a current parent and coming from her home district. And the meetings, I learned so much, and I'm just beyond impressed. But one thing in particular this year that was something that I had really not learned much about were the conversations that we've had around design justice. And I really just felt like I wanted to lift that up because that is not something that a lot of, I imagine, other FPACs in the county, in the country and in the Commonwealth are talking about, and talking about inclusive spaces in every aspect of that word, talking about how we think about spaces and how we think about space planning. And just having those conversations and having the foresight to bring in our chief equity officer into those conversations have really just blown me away. So I just wanted to use my 3 minutes to brag and not ask questions because Dan is kind enough to indulge my questions whenever I email or text or call. So thank you so much. I really can't say enough about this committee, and I hope all of you will always use your appointee as a resource when you have questions and thoughts and you know, anything about facilities and planning here in our county. So thank you again, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Well, with that, my friends, it's been one heck of a day. So unless there is objection, we will adjourn. And thank you, Angela and Katie, too. I appreciate you. Sorry I didn't recognize you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
He's my
Thank you,
rep.
everybody.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.
Night, everybody.